time the Knicks won an NBA title, he helped drive the bus. A basketball Hall of Famer, one of the NBA's top 50 players of all time, a showman, innovator, winner, and now an author as well. Earl the Pearl, My Story, written by tonight's guest, New York Knicks legend Earl Monroe. Thank you so much for stepping into the sports spotlight tonight.
Well, thank you. It's nice to be here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And I think that we need to, for those young kids who might be looking at this and don't remember anything, I didn't really drive the bus.
You helped drive it. You were one of the guys that did that. Let's start with the book. Your life story, a labor of love, I'm sure.
Absolutely. You know, for all these years, people know me, but people don't know me. And I felt as though this was a perfect opportunity to let people know, you know, my background, where I came from, and how I got to be who I am today. And I went back to things that I didn't like to remember, and things that, you know, made my heart warm. And this is kind of an unveiling of me. And, you know, I've laid myself out there, I've taken off all my clothes, and here I am. And this is, just like you say, a labor of love.
So that being said, in the process of the unveiling, as you sit down and go through your life, did you learn anything about yourself looking back at yourself?
You know, I actually did, and you know, there were a lot of lessons that I learned, and I saw how I learned those lessons. One in particular is the fact that, you know, I found myself that I was, even back in those days, you know, I was kind of strict on a lot of things that I like to do. And, like my father, like my mother, you know, we were very kind of meticulous in terms of how we like the house. And today, I find myself the same way. I come in the house looking for things to pick up. And, you know, a lot of times people say, oh, you're too anal. But this is the way I was brought up, and this is something that I carried on over, and I never thought about it until I started doing this book.
I would imagine it would have been much easier for you to write a basketball book and leave it at that. Why was it important for you to include some of the stories in the book that you did about yourself, about you and your life?
Well, because it was part of how I got to be who I am. You know, we go back to even 40s, and 50s, things that happened during those times that, you know, I had an opinion about. I didn't have an opinion about it at that time, but as I grew older, reflecting back, you know, there were opinions that I had. You know, we look at the Civil Rights Movement, and we looked at the Vietnam War and all those things that happened during those times. They were a part of who I am. And again, you know, how I got to be who I am.
The book officially comes out next Tuesday, is that correct?
Absolutely.
When you look at the game today and you see guys that are allowed to create on the floor, LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Kobe for sure, do you kind of sit back and say, yeah, I remember that. I can take a little bit of credit for that.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, when I look back and I look at the game today, and I enjoy the game today, because what I see out there is pretty much what I brought into the game. So consequently, obviously, it's not the same as what I did. You know, I did it down here. They're doing it up here. But at the same time, you know, the type of showmanship, and I think, you know, the NBA has done such a great job of marketing their players, and that's why, you know, this league is so great today.
And the Knicks this year, their best season in 16 seasons. This playoff run just beginning. What can we expect?
Well, I'm looking for this first playoff series against Boston as being really a signature series. I think they're going to run away with Boston. It's going to be a very physical series, and once they win this series, I think that you know, they're going to make a stamp and say, "Hey, we're here and we're ready to play."
How deep can they go?
I think they could go all the way. I mean, when you look at, you know, the teams that they have to play, they've beaten all these teams. And I think the only team that you would say would be in their way as far as the Eastern Division would be the Miami Heat. And, you know what they've done to the Miami Heat. They might have lost to them, you know, one time, but for the most part, they played them very straight. And when you get into playoff series like this here, a lot of times, because you've won a lot of games and whatnot, a lot of teams come in a little afraid of you. But they're not afraid of these guys because they've been there. They've been able to beat them, and they have the confidence to know that they can still do that.
I wondered, since you last put on a Knicks jersey, there's been so many incarnations of this team through the years. This year's team seems to have have it together on and off the court. Do you like this team?
I love this team. I think that, you know, because of what they've done in terms of being able to bring in a lot of the older guys and things of that nature, specifically the fact that Mike Woodson, you know, has done such a great job in assembling guys and putting guys in the right position to succeed. When you think in terms of Carmelo Anthony and how he's played, he's always been a great player, but I think under tutelage of Mike Woodson, he's even superseded, you know, those expectations. You take a J.R. Smith and what he's done. He's changed his whole game around, and now he's not the same player he was last year. And you know, you go down the line for each one of these guys, and you know, in the middle, they've got the big fellow. He's able to swat away shots. So they've got a situation where they can play small. They got a situation they can play large. And, you know, they get up and down the floor and they play, you know, real good defense.
Now, all of that being said, they've got to stay healthy. They've got to hit the three ball. Things have got to break their way. Now, I've gone on record and said Knicks in 6 this first series against the Celtics. You?
Well, I'll say 5 or 6.
Okay.
You know, but I'm not a betting man. All I want to do is win.
I'm with you on that. That's probably the smarter way to go. Let's do this one more time. Earl the Pearl, my story. Nick Great, Earl Monroe. Thank you so much for stepping into the sports spotlight tonight. And good luck with the book. Fantastic read.